Hello, I'm State Senator John Kavanagh, and welcome to this week's edition of Kavanagh's Corner for May 22nd. This is my constituent report. Let's talk about the budget. We signed a budget with Democrat Governor Hobbs, and it is an excellent budget from a Republican standpoint. The major parts of the budget include spending $680 million in new education investments, including $300 million infusion into our K-12 system, $88 million ongoing increase in per pupil spending, and $183 million for school capital construction. In public safety, we've invested $256 million, much of it going to our Department of Corrections and also our state police. But $36 million going to local police departments for border security and border enforcement because the border is hemorrhaging. In the area of transportation, we spent $610 million in many needed state and local projects, including $89 million to expand the lanes on the I-10 so you won't be stuck in traffic when you occasionally go down to Tucson. And we also spent $4 million for the I-17 widening when you go up to Prescott. Much of this is pavement rehabilitation and widening. Tax cuts. The big Republican part of the budget was $260 million for Arizona family tax relief. This is a tax rebate for dependents up to $750 per family in your income tax. In the area of health and welfare, we spent $342 million, $150 million for the Housing Trust Fund to help get more affordable housing because high rents are pinching everybody. But we also put in $60 million for emergency homeless services and temporary shelters. We're trying to clean up these street encampments, get these people off the streets into programs where they can get some help for their mental disorders and their drug treatment because they are a threat when they're on the streets, both to themselves and to others. We spent $174 million on various natural resource investments, including $143 million for targeted water-related projects. We are in a big drought. We do have a water shortage with respect to the Colorado River, and we're spending money to try to get better and newer water sources. Let's talk about some bills of mine that were signed by the governor. Again, these are my bills that the governor has signed. The first is setting up a probate advisory panel. Probate is when the courts appoint someone to be your legal representative, to run your life, because for whatever reason, perhaps mental capacity, you can't do it yourself and you don't have family members who can do it. Or maybe it's a child who's too young. Most of the time, the probate person in charge of individuals is responsible and fair, but there can be abuses. And it's a complicated area of law, and this bill will set up a panel between now and next January to discuss improvements of the law, to give it more transparency and to protect people who can't make their own decisions. I also had SB 1060, changing the definition of animal owners. We have a crisis in Maricopa County, especially with the dog pound. It's overcrowded, it's old, it's poorly run, and they were asking volunteers to take animals in their own homes because of the overcrowding, and many people from the animal rescue community were helping them out. Well, in Arizona, if you have an animal for more than 7 days, it's legally yours. And these people who, at the request of the dog pound, took dogs in for more than 7 days were suddenly told when they said they had to return the dogs because they couldn't keep them anymore, that they couldn't because they were now their dogs. This bill simply says the 7-day period when a dog becomes yours does not include time that a pound asks you to volunteer to take care of an animal. And speaking of pounds, I have another study committee which will look into statewide standards for dog pounds in terms of the space and the medical care, the types of training and screening dogs should be given before they're put up for adoption to protect people. It's a wide area that needs improvement, and we're going to try to get some good standards by getting experts from all aspects of this industry. I also had SB 1174, which made some changes to the way schools get reimbursed for students that withdraw early, just in the interest of fairness. Unfortunately, while I've had many bills signed this session, I've also had many bills vetoed. And SB 1001, you may recall, was my bill that said that school personnel cannot call a student by a pronoun or name that is not aligned with that student's biological sex at birth unless the parents consent, and that school employees, even then, did not have to call somebody by a non-aligned name or pronoun if it was religiously or morally objectionable. The governor vetoed that bill, which is very unfortunate. I also had a bill, SB 1011. Now, this deals with municipal elections which are nonpartisan. And my bill would not make municipal elections that are now nonpartisan, meaning no political parties, to have to do that. But my bill said if a town council or city council wanted to, they could keep their nonpartisan election, but they could have the registered party of the candidate next to their name. So people have an idea when they don't know the candidates personally who is liberal, Democrat, who is conservative, a Republican. It was a matter of information. It was voluntary. The governor vetoed it. SB 1025 was another bill that the governor vetoed. Political signs are a First Amendment right, and in Arizona, municipalities cannot ban political signs in the roadways and rights of way about 3 months before elections and a little bit after elections. Some municipalities game the system. When we passed the law originally, we allowed certain areas in a town to be sign-free if they dealt with tourism or scenic drives. Paradise Valley basically created such a zone which was simply all of its major streets winding like a strand of spaghetti throughout the town to pretty much ban all signs in Paradise Valley. This bill would have prevented that type of long winding zone and required people to have more compact zones so that people can't game the system. The governor vetoed that bill. And the governor also vetoed SB 1048. Right now, if you make a contribution to a candidate and the contribution is over $100, your name and your address and your employer and occupation are listed on the campaign report, which is public information. My bill would have raised that level to $200. So your name would only be reported along with your employer if you gave more than $200 to a candidate or a cause. I did that because a lot of people are attacking and doxing people who make donations to candidates that they don't like. So you make a donation to a Republican and people will get that information, call your boss and say you should be fired. This actually is happening, and I attempted to insulate people from this type of harassment by simply raising the reporting level up from $100 to $200. People making $200 donations are not big spenders that are tilting campaigns, and there really is no reason for their names to be exposed so that they can have their jobs threatened and jeopardized by people who don't like who they contribute to. But unfortunately, the governor vetoed that one too. Finally, there is a newspaper called the Capital Times, and it is a political newspaper that covers the Capitol, the legislature, the governor's office, very in depth. It's mostly read by elected officials, public officials, lobbyists, and individuals who are deeply involved in politics. So a lot of these people are well-informed insiders as to what's happening at the Capitol. And every year they have awards. And I'm pleased to announce that I was nominated not for 1, not for 2, not for 3, not for 4, but for 5 of these awards this year. Doesn't mean I'm going to win them. They still have to have the election and the votes. But let me tell you what I was nominated for. The first one was Most Quotable Politico, because I've been known to give a few good quotes to the newspapers. I think my constituents should know where I stand, and I often like to make those quotes entertaining and memorable, if you will. I was also nominated to be the best elected official Republican, and I'm very proud of this because I do work hard to do a good job down here representing you. I was also nominated for Best Debater Republican, and that's because, well, I came from New York where all we did when I was young was argue, so I'm pretty good at debating, and I guess they recognize that. I'm also proud to state that I was nominated for Best Committee Chair, I chair the Senate Appropriations Committee, and I've been doing this a long time. I'm in my 17th year. All but my first two, I've been a committee chair, so I guess I picked up a few tips. And finally, and this one, I don't know if this one is true. I'm a little modest here, but my final nomination for it was Best Power Broker. And I don't know, I guess that's because people respect me and I get a lot of bills passed, but I'm not Boss Tweed. I'm just your state senator, John Kavanagh, and that's the end of this week's Kavanagh's Corner. Thanks for watching.